Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. There is a continued crisis at the border, and it's worse than we were told. This weekend has exposed a lot of corruption, has exposed a lot of censorship, and exposed a lot of criminality going on at the border. But before we get started, how about you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please leave a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm. Let's get started. From Sarah Gonzalez, he ain't wrong. And who ain't wrong? Donald Trump ain't wrong. So, March 21st, 2021, one of his email tweets, because that's all he can really send out now, we proudly handed the Biden administration the most secure border in history. All they had to do was keep this smooth running system on autopilot. Instead, in the span of just a few weeks, the Biden administration has turned a national triumph into a national disaster. They are in way over their heads and taking on water fast. And he's not wrong, folks. They are in way over their heads and they're taking in water faster than they can scoop it out of the boat. You have so many people pouring across the border that Border Patrol are just basically letting people into the United States without giving them a court date. That's bananas. All they're doing is, okay, we're going to take your biographic information, we're going to basically scan you into the system, and we're releasing you into the United States. What the hell is going on? When my wife, we had a visa for her, and DHS messed up, and she had to stay in Mexico for 10 months while we sorted that out. We didn't get to release her back into the United States. No, we had to keep her in Mexico for 10 months as we worked that out. My daughter got real good at Spanish real fast. And this is bananas what Joe Biden is doing. He is breaking the law. He is breaking his oath of office. He's no longer protecting the citizens of the United States of America. He's no longer protecting the Constitution of the United States of America. He's allowing COVID positive individuals into the United States. He's filling up these facilities so much that they just have to release people into the United States. And now he wants to, grant them amnesty? Go screw yourself, dude. What do you think is going to happen? You pause deportations for 100 days? Well, what do you think people are going to stop illegally crossing the border? No, they're going to come and say, oh, well, I'm not going to be deported, so why am I not going to come during the first 3 months if I'm not going to be deported during the first 3 months? Joe Biden and the Democrats are stupid. They bought into the grift, and now they have to pay the consequences. They keep trying to point the finger at Trump, and like Trump clearly pointed out, hey, look, we had the most secure border in history. We followed the rules, and by following the rules, we created a smooth running system. Yes, it was not ideal because it wasn't as fair as some people wanted to be, but guess what? Life isn't always fair, and sometimes you have to take a hard-nosed stance in order to keep your country safe, in order to protect your country. You have borders. And what did Joe Biden do just to give Donald Trump the finger? He repealed all those executive actions, and now we have 700% capacity in these child facilities. We have so many people crossing the border that there's not enough space for them. So now they're having to grant $1 million contracts to hotels. They're having to just release people into the U.S. interior without giving them coronavirus tests. I thought COVID was serious. It's bananas on so many levels. From Ryan Savadera, what is Biden hiding? This would be a full-blown scandal if it happened under a Republican president. DHS denies press access to Mayorkas tour of southern border facilities. Remember when Donald Trump would go up to CNN and say, you guys are fake news, and they said that was an attack on the press? Right now, you have members of the press literally having to go to Mexico and take pictures on the U.S., basically from Mexico into the U.S., because DHS, the Border Patrol, won't allow them to take pictures of them basically releasing these illegal immigrants into the United States. Because a lot of this happens on federal land, so they're not letting journalists onto federal land. That is a violation of the First Amendment. And I challenge these people sucking the knob of Joe Biden and the Democrats. CNN, NBC, CBS, all these news organizations, quote unquote, who pretend to care about news only when there's a Republican in office, to challenge Joe Biden on this. Take him to court and say he's violating your First Amendment right. The freedom of the press shall not be infringed. So don't sit there and bend over and allow him to anal swab you. Do your damn job. You shouldn't have to go to Mexico to take pictures of America. Doesn't make a lot of sense. From Steve Guest, ABC's Martha Raddatz to illegal alien who crossed the border. Would you have tried to do this when Donald Trump was president? Illegal alien, definitely not. Raddatz, did you come here because Joe Biden was elected president? Illegal, basically. So what does that say? They understood that Donald Trump was following the rules. So it was not in their best interest to come because they would probably just get turned back while Donald Trump was president. But now that Joe Biden, to basically give Donald Trump the finger, repealed all those rules, now it's fair game for illegal immigrants to come to the United States because there's no penalty for breaking the law anymore. We're living in the Wild West, folks. It's not even the Wild West. It's like pre-Wild West. When are we going to talk about oh my goodness. I wanted to talk about some critical race theory stuff, but I might get in trouble for that. Let's jump over to Stephen Miller. To illustrate just how thoroughly Biden has wrecked the border, consider, on a typical day in November 2020, there were fewer than 800 illegal migrants in Border Patrol custody. Now there are more than 10,000, an increase of well over 1,000%. He said percent twice. Stephen Miller again. Yet numbers alone don't tell the full story. Under MPP, Safe Thirds, Asylum Regs, and Title 42, illegal migrants could all be promptly returned home. The reason for overcrowding is because Biden-Mayorkas canceled the authorities needed for reparation, hence catch and release. Finally, let's be clear about one more thing. Trump saved the asylum system. Biden dismantled it by inviting mass illegal migration under the false banner of asylum. Mayorkas has taken a sledgehammer to the asylum system and displaced actual victims of government persecutions. And he's not wrong. By basically giving an incentive for people to claim that they're asylum seekers, they're basically watering down the claims of actual asylum seekers, because everybody is seeking asylum. And you have crazy people like AOC and Nancy Pelosi saying, oh, it's environmental asylum. It's economic asylum. No, it should be asylum for people wanting to chop off your head because of your religion, wanting to chop off your head because of your family, wanting to chop off your head because of your skin color, wanting to chop off, basically wanting to kill you, basically wanting to threaten you because of something that you have no control over. But environmental asylum isn't really a thing. Economic asylum isn't really a thing. Sorry, we have legal processes for immigration. Jumping over to Jack Posobiec. And these are the photos leaked out by Henry Cuellar. He managed to sneak into these facilities, or basically he managed to go into these facilities where they're not allowing press, and he took photos and he released these photos. So this is from March 22nd, 2021, and you see a bunch of kids sitting on benches, a bunch of kids wrapped in tinfoil, basically stacked on top of each other. That kid is laying down directly on concrete, and it's not looking good. Sure, there's not metal people are like, that's not a cage because they're in a plastic bubble. But when you have a cage, there's nothing saying that a cage has to be made from metal. A cage, you can have a plastic cage. I put my dog in a plastic crate. There are metal crates and there are plastic crates. So I don't really understand where people think they're trying to get, oh yeah, dude, I got one up on Jack Posobiec because that's not a cage because it's a plastic bubble. No. Well, if you're trying to rationalize what's going on with these kids, you are probably an evil sack of shit. Let's jump over to Uncle Hotep. Who built the motel cages, Joe? So in case you didn't know, The Joe Biden administration approved an $86 million contract allowing for hotels to be used to house these illegal immigrants from Texas, Arizona, California, basically these border states, which is bananas. So from Angela Stanton King, 86 million on hotel rooms for illegal immigration or illegal immigrants while black Americans are still begging for reparations. And while I disagree with reparations, I've done a video on that. I understand where she's coming from. Everybody who bought into Joe Biden's line, hook, line, and sinker, they own this. They deserve what they're getting right now because they supported somebody who all he's done in his political career is lie. All he's done in his political career is cage black and brown kids. It's important to note when you go, hey, you have somebody who lies in a grandiose sort of way, in a New York businessman sort of way, in a New York real estate sort of way, basically saying everything I do is awesome. When I touch my toilet turned to gold. Of course he's exaggerating. Of course he's lying, but people want to fact check that. But when Joe Biden literally lies about taking sniper fire, or no, excuse me, coming under enemy fire while in Iraq, nobody fact checks him. They go, oh, well, he could have thought he was under enemy fire 3 miles away. That's enemy fire, right? Yeah, guys. No, there happened to be some sort of gunfire, but it was not enemy fire or not directed at him. Because when you have combat happening that far away, it's really hard to tell if that's friendly or enemy fire that's going on. So it's just shenanigans on so many levels. And people are surprised by this sort of dishonesty, by this sort of being screwed over by a Joe Biden administration. And don't get me started on Kamala Harris, who basically will suppress evidence to keep black people in jail longer than they're supposed to. You have 2 corrupt politicians as your president and vice president. You have a corrupt politician and a corrupt pig as your president and vice president. What do you think was going to happen, guys? Come on. It's not that hard. From Marina Medvin, equity. Hotel rooms are being handed out to illegal aliens at the expense of American tax dollars, yet our military is forced to sleep in parking garages and open halls. And look at all these National Guard members sleeping on top of each other in the halls of Congress, basically being fed raw chicken and rice with metal shavings in it. I'm sure the illegal immigrants at the border aren't being fed this. When they are being fed, because it was reported that they're not being fed as often as they should be. When they are being fed, I'm pretty sure they're probably being fed better food than raw chicken. So remember, the Biden administration will treat illegal immigrants better than he treats the military. How do you think that's going to affect troop morale? How do you think that's going to affect retention? How do you think that's going to affect how do you think that's going to affect enlistment? If you have people wanting to enlist, and you see a lot of this when it comes to conservative talk shows. Basically, they'll send in their questions and basically say, hey, I'm graduating college. I was supposed to, or basically my goal was to join the Army as a X, Y, or Z. And now I don't know if I want to because the Army is getting woke. The Navy is getting woke. That is concerning when you have people not wanting to join the military, especially conservatives who overwhelmingly represent the military at like a rate of 85%. They don't want to join the military because the 15% is so loud that they basically browbeat them. They shove the critical race theory down their throats so violently that they don't want any part in that system because it's just a toxic command structure. And finally, jumping over to Axios, just in, Rio Grande Valley Border Patrol releasing migrants without court date. That's right, folks. Joe Biden is no longer just caging brown people. He's just releasing them willy-nilly into the United States without COVID testing. All he's doing is, hey, we're going to take down your name and information, and we'll see you when we see you. It's up to you to schedule a court date. It's not their job. It's not the federal government's job to schedule a federal court date. Apparently, it's now up to the illegal immigrant to schedule a court date. This is Joe Biden's America. and it's criminal. Border Patrol agents in the Texas Rio Grande Valley sector used their own discretion to release about 150 migrants Saturday evening without giving them a court date, Axios has learned. Why it matters. They use of prosecutorial discretion by Border Patrol to release migrants without a notice to appear in court is unprecedented, according to multiple sources, and is yet another sign of how overwhelmed parts of the border are becoming. The Rio Grande Valley sector had roughly 5,100 migrants in custody as of Sunday, Rep. Henry Cuellar told Axios. They were supposed to keep the number of migrants in their custody to about 700 because of COVID-19 pandemic. So they're at 700% capacity. Guidance sent to the Border Patrol in the sector on Saturday from agency leadership told Border Patrol agents they can decide to release some migrants, often at bus stations or non-governmental organizations, without a notice to appear in court, according to a source familiar with the correspondence. Migrant facilities and adults are usually first referred to Immigration and Customs Enforcement to determine if and where migrants will be detained. Agents are still using an emergency public health order to quickly expel migrant adults and some families, but the guidance gives them more leeway in deciding what to do on a case-by-case basis, according to the source. The guidance also says COVID-19 testing should be administered whenever possible. The government has largely relied on local agencies and non-governmental organizations to provide testing for migrant families and adults. Fox News first reported on the move, citing multiple Border Patrol agents. What they're saying, in some cases, families are placed in removal proceedings further along in the release process rather than while they're at the Border Patrol station. All families, however, are screened at the Border Patrol station, including the collection of biographical and biometric information and criminal and national security records checked. So as at least they're doing that. At least they're making sure that they are not basically terrorists, because they have caught 4 so far this year. They have caught 4 people on the terrorist watch list so far this year. So at least they're still making sure that they're not importing terrorists directly into the United States, especially since Iran was talking about having a USS Cole-style attack in Washington, D.C. I'm going to be covering that in a different video later today. But they're just releasing people into the United States after we're just going to scan you into the system. Just call this number whenever you have a chance and you'll schedule a court date. How does that seem fair? How does that seem equitable to the Black and people of color in the United States who want equity? Because you're treating illegal immigrants better than you're treating your own citizens. We have a homeless crisis in the United States right now due to COVID-19. A lot of people lost their job, yet you're spending $58 million on, or was it 86 million or 58 million? Hold on. I don't want to lie to you. $86 million on hotel rooms. That $86 million could be spent on hotel rooms for homeless Americans, and we can keep kicking out illegal immigrants because we have a border. It's the right thing to do. So that's going to be it for today, folks. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below. I try to take part in conversations as much as I can. So I'll see y'all in a couple hours. Have a good one. See you in a bit. Bye.